If you've ever dreamed of owning your own cabin up in the Northwoods, as this area in Wisconsin tends to be called, you're not alone. I talk with buyers every day and every week regarding their potential interest in cabins in and around the Hayward area. These buyers are often from Minneapolis, St. Paul area or surrounding suburbs, Rochester, Minnesota, maybe Chicago, southern Wisconsin, Eau Claire area, all of these places who are looking to get up north. But before you make that decision, it may be good to check out this video talking about the real life pros of owning a second home in and around the Hayward area and some of the honest cons that you might run into and things that you may have not thought about that you want to consider before you would move ahead with that purchase. I'm Audrey Miller. I'm the broker owner of Northwest Wisconsin Realty Team, and you're watching my channel called Living in Hayward, Wisconsin, where we talk about all things real estate related and also just about living in Hayward. So I've worked with lots of second home buyers on water and off water over the course of my career. So I'm kind of gathering this information from my years of experience with buyers in and around the Hayward area. Some people like to just come here and vacation for a week every year, and that's the extent of their interest. But many people who end up buying second homes have been here visiting and vacationing over a period of time and finally have decided it's the right time for them to purchase. So some of the pros of owning a second home in the Hayward area and surrounding areas that I cover. One is you're actually going to use your vacations. So when you actually have a second home here, it's much easier to make it a priority to get here to visit because you've put the money and the time into the property. So instead of just coming once a year or for a 2-week period sometime, you actually will find yourself striving to get here more often and actually using and enjoying the cabin that you bought. Pro number 2, you become part of the community. You get to know your neighbors. You get to know favorite restaurants. You get to discover trails and lakes that maybe aren't just, known to everyone. Supper clubs, favorite hiking trails, the little nuances of the community, different events that are going on, different groups that you can become a part of. And you start to feel like, hey, this is our second hometown. There's contrasts, I'm sure, to where you are from otherwise and, things that you appreciate about being in the quieter up north lifestyle. Pro number 3 is family memories. One of the biggest reasons people tend to never regret purchasing a home here, especially lakefront property, I notice, is it is centered around relationships and family. So having your grandkids there, having your children come, having friends and family come to the lake house. I found that when you own a lake house, you have a lot of people typically that would like to come and visit you and take advantage of that. So the memories that you create, it's another reason why sellers often have a hard time letting go of their property, but it's one of the big pros of having that second home to come to. And because it feels like vacation, even the vibe around your time at the cabin tends to be really positive. Pro number 4 is the 4-season recreation. So you're not just coming here in one season of the year, whether that was for snowmobiling or sometime in the summer, which is more common. You're getting to enjoy the full spectrum of the Northwest Wisconsin area. So in the summertime, of course, you've got the boating, the lakes, the fishing, the outdoor water sports, the hiking, all of that. But wintertime, you've got some events that go on around here. You've got the snowmobiling, the skiing, the ice fishing, many things. And then in the fall, you've got the leaf colors and hunting. Springtime is kind of a slower time of the year, but you could visit waterfalls or just kind of enjoy the sights and sounds of nature as spring is coming about and everything is waking up for the year. So you kind of get the full gamut of it, and it's so much easier to get here. You're not having to pack everything, plan ahead for months, find a rental, all of that. You've already got your house here and waiting. Presumably you keep some clothes and things at your second home so that if it's a weekend and you're like, hey, let's just go over to Hayward to the cabin, you can do that much more easily than when you're trying to have to plan ahead to rent something. Also, pro number 5 is potential long-term investment. This is actually a pretty big one for a lot of second home buyers. People are always conscious about the value and spending money that makes sense to them financially. And will this be a good long-term investment? And what I can tell you is a resounding yes. There's no more lakefront property being made, so we've just seen an ongoing increase in the value of the lakefront properties. I'm not saying there could never be a dip in the market or a cycle that goes through, but when you look at the history, it's a very positive investment. And some people leave it in their family for generations. But either way, whether you're buying it as an investment property to rent out or more commonly just using it for yourself, the long-term gain is typically a very good pro for owning a second home. So now let's talk about a few things that buyers don't always think about, or things that you definitely want to consider, or that could be potential cons when considering a second home in the Hayward area. So first of all, you have 2 homes now. So there's maintenance. There are things that happen when you're away. A tree falls across the driveway. The dock needs work. There's lawn care to be done. There is plumbing and HVAC and all of those things that can go wrong, just like at your primary home. The good news is that a number of those things can be outsourced. If you ever need recommendations for like lawn mowing companies or dock removal or, plumbing or furnace or whatever, let me know and I'll try to help you out with that. The other thing is, with the popularity of cameras, Nest thermostats, all of those things, you have much more visibility on your home and property than you used to years ago. So that's super nice, but it's still, there's things that happen, maybe you come up in the spring and, oh my gosh, we got this job and that job and the other job to do, so that could be considered a con. Con number 2 could be just ongoing expenses besides repair type things. You've got a mortgage, but you don't just have a mortgage. You typically have taxes, insurance, utilities, maintenance, repairs. So the cabin still costs you money, even if you're not using it. And honestly, this is a reason that sellers often come to me. They have bought a cabin in this area, but over time things have changed, whether it's now they have kids in sports and they can't get away as much, or whether they've gotten older and it's harder for them to travel here. Whatever it may be, one of the reasons that people sell is they're just not getting to the cabin as much as they used to, or that they did when they bought it. Con number 3, even though it's your vacation home and it's your second home, it can still feel like work. So you've got mowing, cleaning, closing the cabin in the fall if you're doing that, opening it in the spring, and, all of the things that go along with an up north property. Spraying for ants, or, keeping pests out. We're in the Northwoods up here. We got lots of trees. So sometimes people do feel like, gosh, I came here for vacation for the weekend or for the week, and all I'm doing is spending time, taking care of things around the property. Again, if you want to outsource some of those things, that helps a lot, but you do have to expect that you're going to have some work when you come to visit the property if you're taking care of these things yourself. There's also property managers who can do these things for you, but again, that costs money. So it's kind of a, what you want to do yourself versus what you want to hire out. We have lots of companies that provide these services in the Hayward area, but some people prefer to do things themselves. I know I sold a property on the Chippewa flowage to some folks, and they do talk about, like, when they come up most weekends, but it's like half a day of the weekend is spent doing yard work or other things around the property that need to be taken care of. So that can be a con. It at least needs to be something that you expect and that you've kind of figured out and planned for. Another potential con is weather and distance to the property. So I have a lot of people that like to stay within 3 hours of where their primary residence is. That's pretty common and pretty doable for a lot of people, but there's others that drive 4 to 6 hours, some even from Northern Illinois. It's a little bit further than that. So if you're coming in the wintertime, especially, you've got weather to work around and just the dynamic of the distance to your property. Sometimes, depending how far the drive is, it's not worth it coming out for the weekend. So you need to come for a whole week. And then, just like I said, weather can be unpredictable, especially in the wintertime. So you may be working around weather. Oh, we were going to go to the cabin, but now there's a storm moving in, or there's a blizzard, or gosh, we're going to get up there and is the driveway plowed yet? Those types of things. So that's another potential thing to consider. And the fifth one, potential con, is it may not be the right time for you as a buyer. There are some people who, depending where they are in their life, or if they're just about to retire, there's going to be a big change with their kids, or financially it's too much of a stretch. Those are people that I might say you'd be good to wait for a year or two. We can start looking at properties. I can start sending you properties that might match your criteria, but you may not want to get serious about looking until you feel like those other pieces of the puzzle are more in place, or things are more steady in your life. Everybody knows for themselves kind of when is the right time for them to buy. And I've noticed something interesting over the years, and I work with a ton of second home buyers. I would say that's close to 70% of my business is people who either on or off water are purchasing second homes, a lot of them on water. But almost nobody regrets making the purchase unless they either stretched themselves too far financially, it wasn't the right time for them, or they didn't do enough research about what lake or what area they wanted to be in beforehand. One of the things I suggest is, if you have no idea about the Hayward area, first of all, you can use my channel as a resource. I've got tons of videos that you may find to be helpful to give you some insights, but otherwise, come and spend a week in the area, drive around, maybe rent a boat and go on 1 or 2 of the lakes, kind of see the area, watch some of my videos about price points, kind of match that up with your budget, and get a little bit of a feel for it, so that you know where you want to buy, what lakes you may want to be on. Do you want to be off water but close to, boat landings, that kind of thing? Do you want more privacy? Do you want to be a little bit outside of Hayward? Do you want to be closer to Hayward? All those things. If you have done your research and kind of, planned accordingly, people typically are very happy with their purchase of a second home. And, sometimes things can even be almost better than you imagine. For instance, I sold property to a couple from Minneapolis not too long ago, and they ended up spending way more time at the cabin than they expected because they were able to work remotely. They ended up coming up for stretches of weeks at a time instead of just coming up on weekends. So sometimes it works that way as well, where you end up using your second home even more than you expected originally. So anyway, if you're looking for advice on buying or selling, feel free to reach out to me. Also, I'd be happy for you to click subscribe or like or share my channel with others. I've also got Facebook and Instagram accounts under the Living in Hayward, Wisconsin brand. So check out those if you'd like and follow along. And as always, I'm Audrey Miller with Northwest Wisconsin Realty Team. Happy to help.